Okay, so what if we could treat aging like it's just another disease? I mean, really, in the very near future, science might just give us the power to live for hundreds of years. But here's the thing, as we're getting all geared up to upgrade our biological hardware, have we actually stopped to check for a virus? You know, a virus in our human software. Let's dig into that. So full credit where it's due. The powerful ideas in this explainer come from a really fascinating and frankly pretty challenging analysis by Marynês Pereira. We're talking about a specialist who has spent decades working on leadership, AI, and, what makes us tick as humans. All right, I want you to picture this. The year is 2026. It's January. We're at the World Government Summit, and suddenly, Harvard's own Dr. David Sinclair gets up and just drops an absolute bombshell. He announces that the first human trials have been approved for a therapy that could not just stop aging, but maybe even reverse it. And just like that, everything is about to change. Forever. So the end of aging, a medical miracle. But how would this thing actually work? Let's get into the science of it. Okay, so Dr. Sinclair has this brilliant way of explaining it. He says to think of your DNA like a perfect CD, It holds the original, perfect software for your youth. But over time, that CD gets all scratched up. And those scratches? Well, that's aging. Now, this new therapy, it's incredible. It doesn't change the CD itself. It just polishes it. It buffs out the scratches so your cells can finally read that original, youthful information again. It's like reinstalling the factory settings. So how does it do the polishing? Well, it's got two main weapons in its arsenal. First up is this thing called compound IU1. Think of it as a tiny janitor for your cells, just going in there and cleaning up all the damaged proteins and junk that makes things go haywire. And then there's protein AP2A1. This one is basically a time switch, and the therapy just flicks it off, and bam, old cells start acting like they're brand new again. I mean, the promise here is just staggering. We're talking about a world without the terror of Alzheimer's, a world where blindness and old age or fragile bones are things you read about in history books. It's the dream, right? To age, but keep the vitality you had when you were 25. But, and this is a huge but, this is exactly where the story takes a very, very sharp turn. The virus in the system, a software glitch. Because all that amazing science we just talked about, it's all focused on the biological hardware. But what if it completely misses the software? Our actual human character. And yeah, this is the question. It's really the entire heart of the debate, isn't it? We are right on the verge of perfecting the human body, our hardware. But what about our software, our mind? Are we seriously about to hand centuries of life over to a species that's, let's be honest, pretty driven by short-term greed and a lust for power? This really lays out the fundamental conflict. On one side, you have the hardware, our bodies. Science looks at aging and says, yep, that's a bug, and we can fix it. But on the other side, you have our software, our character. And the bugs in there, the greed, the short-sightedness, well, you can't just patch those. In fact, if you give us more time and more power, you might just amplify those flaws to a totally catastrophic level. And history is just screaming warnings at us here. Take the Sumerians. They were masters of irrigation, total agricultural geniuses, but their greed for bigger and bigger harvests ended up poisoning their own soil and their civilization collapsed. Or look at Rome. They built marvels of engineering, but it all came crashing down because their elite became so privileged, so immortal in their own way, that they just lost touch with reality. So the big question for 2026 is, are we just setting ourselves up to repeat the same exact cycle, only this time with centuries to make our mistakes? The high cost of forever, a dystopian price tag. And make no mistake, this isn't just some philosophical debate. The real-world consequences could be absolutely terrifying. And to really get a handle on where this train is headed, you have to look at the guys in the driver's seat. On one side, you've got Dr. David Sinclair, the pure scientist. To him, aging is just lost information. His goal? Treat aging like any other disease. But then you've got someone like Sam Altman, the mega investor. To him, aging is a code to be hacked, to be optimized. He's pouring in massive amounts of money, not just to add a few healthy years, but potentially to integrate us with AI. One guy is looking for a cure, the other is looking for an upgrade. And this leads directly to the kind of dystopian future that science fiction has been warning us about for decades. We're talking about a world literally split into two different kinds of humans. You'd have the eternal elite, the ones who own the AI, the robots, and the key to biological youth. And then, everyone else, the disposable masses. Their jobs gone, replaced by AI. Their lives still short and hard. It's basically the altered carbon scenario, but for real. But think about this. Even for that immortal elite, there's a pretty twisted, terrible price to pay. It's the paradox of time. I mean, if you have literally forever, what's the rush? Why do anything today? The very urgency, the passion, the drive that gives our lives meaning could just disappear. I'll get to it tomorrow stops being a phrase and starts being an abyss that stretches for centuries. Character before immortality. The final verdict. Okay, so this brings us to the final and kind of unavoidable conclusion. Just think about the planet for a second. If billions of us, with our current habits, start living for centuries instead of just decades, what do you think happens? It means centuries more plastic, centuries more carbon, centuries more of just consuming everything. We would literally become an undying plague on our own planet. Longevity without a fundamental upgrade to our character isn't a gift, it's a death sentence for Earth. And just to reiterate, these powerful and pretty sobering insights are drawn from the fantastic article by Marynês Pereira, which really leaves us with one final, haunting question to think about. We're in this frantic race to claim the right to live forever. But in all that rushing, have we forgotten to learn the duty to live with decency? You know, how to live well, right here, right now, with the precious time we already have?